Greg?
Matt, how are you today?
I'm good. How am I sounding here?
You sound clear as a bell, brother.
Okay. Well, that's too bad because I got a cold and got a scratchy throat, so I sound like I've been screaming
Having a
for
little
2 days.
having a little hot tea with lemon there, I hope.
Little hot cocoa, baby.
There you go. So where's Ash?
I don't know. Are you busy?
I don't know. Kind of a wild one, huh?
I mean, I got people climbing over dead bodies to buy more lumber from me that I don't have. It's kind of, and then you watch futures going up and down like a yo-yo, and it's like these two things aren't really telling the same story, right? So if you look at my inbox and my phone, you would think the market has never been hotter in its whole life, right? And this is after 6 weeks of pretty good market conditions.
Yeah, and I think, there's a huge disconnect between, what the value of lumber is. That, like, everybody's in the same situation. Is they own a ton of lumber, but it's not all there. And, it's like we've been saying. The disconnect between what lumber's worth, in a week or two or three or four, and what it's worth in May, June, is pretty wide right now.
Yep. Where's Russ Taylor?
Well, we're going to bring him in a bit, right? But I wanted to
bringing in the closer.
Bringing in the closer, right? We're going to make up a bunch of statistics first, and then Russ is going to come in and and show us the truth. Like, I'm looking forward to having him on. I kind of went through a bunch of the slides he sent me over. There's some great ones that we'll talk about. So we'll just wait a few more minutes as some more people stream into the show. How are you guys? That's a great backdrop, by the way, Greg.
Yeah, well, I'm
He's
checking
in Chicago.
out South American eucalyptus down here. No,
right on.
He's in Winnetka.
Yeah, North Shore of Chicago. Look at it; it's beautiful.
There we go. Let me just put something up here. Do you guys ever open another screen and look at the comments coming through, or can you see them?
I can see comments. I'm not seeing anything right now. I got a "We Are Live" from you.
Yep, I just put that out. Yeah, it looks great, Greg. Good video and everything. So, hey, everybody, welcome to This Week in Lumber. A lot to unpack this week. We got Matt Beamer, Hampton Lumber Sales, Greg Riley, Sitka USA. And, hey, just a little plug, mxlumber.com, the only digital B2B platform that's matching buyers and sellers. And Matt, thank you. You sent a large bill over to me yesterday that's getting on, and I appreciate that. I'll have to talk to you off screen on that one.
Okay.
So basically, you must have said something good that helped out, because the guy's comment was basically, "Why wouldn't I get on this?" Right. So it's cool.
That's really should be everybody's comment, though, Ash. It's like,
right.
Why wouldn't you? Right. All it can do is improve your opportunities in the business. I've talked about this a number of times. Is the business that I'm able to do on the platform on a daily basis opens up a whole range of customers that I don't normally have access to. And
you have to hire 3 people to do all that legwork for you, right?
Yeah,
all right, let me get my wallet out. Hold on a second. No, but
we'll just take. You can just give us. You can just give us. Grant us shares. That's all. For the IPO.
What I'm saying is, people really like coming and listening to the show, and it's actually converted into people wanting to get on the platform. So what I always say is, and that's appreciative to you guys for putting all the hard work and talking and time and using the platform. And if you like what Greg, Matt, and I do, the way that you can thank us is by getting us on the mxlumber.com platform and using us. That's the best gratitude and thanks that anybody can get, is actually somebody using what they've created, right?
Right.
So let's jump right into
this market, Ash?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. Greg, whether we're at breakfast sometimes, well, we won't be for a while since you may be remote. We're always like, so what's next? What's happening here? How about this market? What's your thought, Greg? We had a bunch of ideas kicking it off. Take us down the path.
Matt and I were talking before you came on. The big disconnect in the market is that business continues to be robust, but the kinks in the supply chain. If all of the customers were able to receive all of their product that they have on order, they'd be in great shape. But the fact is that cars are 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks late in shipping, and they're taking 1, 2, 3 weeks longer than normal to get in. Trucking is delayed across the board, and so that means that guys have to be in the market every single day, fill-in buying, which continues to support prices.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we talk about this all the time, and there hasn't been a let up. And I think, Greg, you always say is Matt, some of these buyers that I thought had pushed in the clutch 2 weeks ago came back in for another kick at the cat. Matt, what's your feeling?
Well, here, I mean, I spent a week in Texas last week, and so I guess the field report would be everybody's got a lot of lumber and a lot of trucks moving in and out, and there's lots of activity all over the place, but all of it's sold. So nobody really has any extra inventory. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a really busy mall. And, it's Christmas season. Everybody wants to get their last minute shopping. That's kind of what the lumber business is like right now. There's just a lot of people at the mall, and they're buying a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of product moving around and changing hands, but it's all sold. So if you wanted that little Elmo doll, yeah, you're going to have to go to a different mall to find it because nobody's got any Elmo dolls anymore. Well, that's kind of what lumber's like in the field right now. You need some quick lumber. Yeah, you're going to have to shop really hard to find quick lumber anywhere in the United States. It doesn't really matter where you are. I mean, it's just lumber is not fast right now.
Yeah, so
this is where the platform is a real benefit for buyers and sellers, because you're able to match up excesses anywhere in the country with where there's need. And the only difference is, hey, what's that freight? But in most cases right now, if people need things quick, price is irrelevant, and that extra freight, and it will be extra, doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Ashley, I keep waiting for a lull in activity. I mean, and I was telling Greg before the official start of the meeting here that I've never been busier. If you looked at my cell phone and my email right now, you would think that we just started a rally, not week 7 in a rally. It's a head scratcher, man. And I see futures is down like $100+ in the last 24 hours. And I just go, yeah, that's a buy. I mean, I'm just going to wait for the industry to buy that up, because guaranteed, based on the level of activity at my desk and at Hampton in general, I'm not just talking for me personally. I'm talking about our entire company. We are swamped with orders, and we're selling stuff into April now. It's not like I'm just talking about quick shipping lumber. We're selling long lengths for mid-April shipment. People are just happy to get their name in line. It's crazy, man. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, you were making the comment you're trying to do paperwork and not trying to not sell, but in the process of doing paperwork, it's hard to get done, right? Because you're selling.
Yeah, to Matt's point, I'm incredibly busy. My inbox, it's predominantly focused on people asking where shipments are, and so I continue to fight that battle. I quoted somebody's trucks this morning, and I put them for the week of 328. Stock on the ground, week of 328. I continually get inquiry for, hey, how quick can I get this? And I'm 328, 44, depending on where it's going. Just so I get a let up in people checking. Yeah, it's on the ground. I could say I could ship it prompt and then be 2 weeks late.
Yeah, no doubt. And we had people on the platform bidding on all kinds of on the Elmo dolls. Yesterday, Matt, 2x6, 116 and 5/8, 2x4, 116 and 5/8. And people are coming in saying, yeah, we can sell you for late April or May, but people are like, no, I need it for the first week of April, right? So a lot of that interesting stuff. And here's the thing. If you can find it, you can get your price, right?
Sure.
You can get a price. So a lot of things to unpack. So Gregg, Matt, what do you think? I want to talk a little bit about global U.S. and BC trends.
Yeah, I understand that we've got an expert.
Hey, Russ, how are you?
There he is.
Hi, guys. Doing well. How about you?
Well, so Russ, I was going to introduce you, but if you want to introduce yourself that you're on now, let's go for it, man.
Well, sure. I'm just, I guess you call myself an international consultant and analyst looking at the global markets, which I've been doing for 30 plus years. So I have a bit of insight from all my travels, although not traveling much the last 2 years, but hopefully traveling soon. Yeah. So that's still playing with the numbers and the markets.
So hopefully some people ask some questions, but we've got to, so with everything going on, and Gregg, I'll kind of let you lead with some stuff here. With everything going on in global uncertainty and the global log trade around the world, in my inability to kind of get the numbers together, you are a perfect guy to have on because your numbers are solid. You've been doing this forever. And I mean, the questions people are asking now are whatever's going on in the Ukraine and everything else in the world is how is that going? Everybody wants to know how things are going to affect them, right? And all the little moving pieces of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Ash and I were talking before, Russ, and we said, like maybe you got to give us a 30,000-foot view of what you anticipate changes in the availability of European lumber to the U.S. and what the effect of the war in Ukraine will have on global timber supply demand equilibrium.
Sure, and trying to look at the short story and all this, if you look at what Russia shipped to Europe last year, it was about, and all my data is in cubic meters, so I'll try and switch back and forth, but about 5 million cubic meters.
Which chart do you want us to bring up, Russ? We can bring one up right now.
Well, if you use that chart number 4, that's probably a good primer.
Okay, we'll bring up number 4 for you.
Yeah, and anyways, it's so it's kind of a complicated slide, but and I look at sort of 5 major regions of the world. I look at Europe, Russia, China, U.S. and Canada, and those are the big players. That's where a lot of the exports come from. And so when you look at the yellow box, which is Russia, it exports about 30 million cubic meters a year, or that was 2021, about 19 billion board feet, and to Europe, 5 million cubic meters was shipped last year, so about 3 billion board feet. So now that's been blocked by all the European countries and been boycotted. Another million cubic meters comes in from the Ukraine, and that's likely to be blocked. So that means Europe shy 6 million cubic meters, 3.5 or 4.5 billion board feet. So Europe, with the market being strong there, they're going to need to keep that volume moving, and a lot of the Russian volume is going to planing mills in the Baltic states and Sweden and Germany because it's rough lumber that's typically shipped and then it's processed further. So the Europeans also ship plain lumber to the U.S. market, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to have very strong demand from the U.S. that looks like, talking to you guys. And in Europe right now, demand is still strong. So they've got to decide, with scarce lumber available, what are they going to do? And I think they're going to try and divert a lot more volume away from the U.S. back into Europe to plug that hole, watching and knowing that the U.S. market has this terrible way of going way, way up and then crashing. So they're all thinking about last year too. So that may allow them to hold more of this plain lumber into Europe. And that's going to, I think, then reduce the imports going forward into the U.S. market, creating, again, more of a supply issue in the short term.
So, Russ, there's a couple lumber mills on the Romanian border, and somebody asked me to ask this question to you. And there's also some, hopefully I get this question right, it's written on the back of an envelope because I was trying to jot notes. There's OSB and lumber mills located near Belarus and also on the Russian border. How is that going to affect that production that's not directly in Russia, the Ukraine, but is kind of, right next to it?
Well, I think that if Belarus can operate, I guess that's the question, can Belarus operate? but a lot of the like the grading agencies, the FSC and the PFC, they've said it's no longer certified wood if it's needed for retail sales or so forth. So that's going to basically prevent, I think, a lot of that volume from moving, say, from Belarus into Europe. And Russian volumes, I think, are being boycotted as well. So OSB will also be impacted. To what degree? I haven't looked at the OSB sector in detail, but only looked at lumber. But the whole lumber supply looks like and therefore OSB supply from Russia and Belarus, I think, is going to be blocked into Europe.
Right. The other question, and I just wanted to get this one out. Somebody asked me about 20,000 truckers in Europe that some are getting called back to active service. Have you heard anything about that? Will that have an effect on anything, that some of them are directly related with moving freight around? I'm sure it'll have some kind of.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't, but I'm sure you're going to get all this kind of dislocations and unintended consequences of, your supply chain in Europe's only going to get worse because, truckers are either going to not go defend their country, or they're going to, because a lot of Polish companies transport wood through Central Europe, and so Polish and also some Ukrainian companies too. So I think you'll see dislocations, and then more lack of access to markets and so forth. So more dislocations in the market.
Yeah, he just correct. He said Romanian production, which gets logs from the Ukraine. So that's what he was asking me.
Yeah, it would. That's probably going to be a problem.
Yeah, I guess when I think about it, Russ, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, one of the things with this is, you have something. There's lots of unintended consequences, and like it's kind of the Don Rumsfeld. There's unknown unknowns, and so that's the thing. It's hard. If someone asked me, said, "Hey, what do you think about the price, the stock market?" And I said, if you can tell me how long the conflict is going to go on, whether it's going to expand or, be settled in the intermediate, I could give you a better answer, but, we just don't know how that's all going to play out.
Exactly. And that's what I see. There's just so many unknowns ahead that we all know that everyone's going to start making their own decisions about what to do in the short term. And then it's going to be an ongoing adjustment as we go forward. So that's what's going to play out. So I think the Europeans, especially those that, a lot of the planing mills that supply the European market, they're the ones that are going to be short of wood from Russia, especially in the Baltic states and in that area. So I think it's going to be some of the Scandinavians and the Germans are going to fill in some of that gap inside Europe, and that's going to reduce supply to a tight U.S. market.
And Russ, this may be in one of your slides. I think it is, because Greg and I and Matt were talking. There's a couple slides we want to focus on because the data is pretty cool when you look at it. Matt Lehman was asking, Russia will be the cheapest lumber and likely take China market. Will that leave more Canadian lumber for us? I think he means U.S. For U.S. Looks like a giant deck shuffling.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, the ruble's devalued by 50%, so they've got the cheapest lumber in the world now, and their only option will be to ship to China. So amongst other markets, maybe India, we've heard. And the problem though with shipping, like so Siberia has a strong market with China, and they've got good infrastructure and rail access and so forth. But Western Russia is actually the biggest producing region, and they would have to ship across all of Russia to get to China, and usually this time of the year, oil cars get priority over lumber cars. So I think there's going to be a logistical bottleneck in Russia. Everyone's going to want to ship to China whatever they're producing. So I think there's going to be a bottleneck getting it across Russia. So that's going to be the wild card there, I think. How will they get it across Russia?
Change gears, and I know that one of the things we've been talking a lot about is the supply of lumber from British Columbia. I mean, obviously, we're all impacted right now by the Canadian National. Apparently, it's hard to get the number of cars that's needed in wintertime. Winter's a new thing apparently for the.
And there's more about the CP strike too that I keep hearing rumblings about. Maybe I don't know if anybody's heard anything new on that, but
I guess we all know that BC production in general has trended lower, and I think Russ has a slide on that.
I think slide 12, is that right, Russ? Did that make?
I have to go check. Slide 12 is, or 11 or 12. Yeah.
Let's bring up 11 first. We'll go 11 because we liked 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Okay.
We'll bring up slide 11.
And all it is just showing the decline in BC exports to the U.S. and you know, it's quite pronounced. I mean, you know, we salvaged all the beetle wood in that 2000, you know, 2 to 2007 period, and then the market collapsed, and then the mills started closing. You know, 40 sawmills have closed in BC since 2005, and you know, another 10 to go in this decade. So it's going to be just we're running out of timber. The government's now changing all the forest policies, protecting all the old growth and protecting caribou, and there was more beetle issues in BC and forest fires yet to come. So it's just going to be a bit of a disaster out of BC, a steady erosion of supply.
So what are you expecting BC production to be like, you know, on average over the next 3 to 4 years?
Well, it depends on government policy, but you know, it's going to be declining. I think it's going to be off, you know, 5 or 10% this year, just because of the immediate, they've frozen the old growth, and a lot of the government's called BC timber sales that sells 20% of the lumber in BC. Only about a third of that is going to be available. So there's going to be an immediate reduction in log supply just because of that, and then all the other issues that are developing as this old growth policy unravels. So, you know, and in fact, you know, if you look at last year's incremental volume, I mean, this is kind of what I've been playing around with this morning. You know, the biggest supplier, the biggest incremental supplier, you know, like U.S. consumption grew about 1.2, 1.4 billion board feet last year. The biggest supplier, incremental supplier, was actually BC last year. Yep. Which is only because we never rebounced back from when the pandemic hit. So we kind of equaled 2019 levels in 2021. But that was the biggest supplier, and we were up almost 600 million board feet to the U.S. I think it's going to be negative 500 this year from BC going to the U.S. So that's
Russ. The shocking thing to me is that, you know, we you know, I mean, all of this has been well telegraphed for a long period of time, and you know, I continue to hear and see that, yeah, but there's just this massive increase in production out of the southern U.S. and there's all these mills, but you know, the statistics just don't seem to be catching up with the rhetoric.
Exactly. And, you know, like I looked at, I think I had one of my slides in there. There's about 8 billion board feet of new
let's go. Yeah, slide 13. We'll pull that one up.
Yeah. And that's a busy chart, but it's, you know, the short story is about 8 billion board feet.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't read that either, but about 8 billion board feet of new capacity that's been you know, since 2018, and you know, and you look at it's an average of about 1.6 billion board feet over the last 5 years, but the production's only up 600 million board feet per year over the last 5 years. So it's coming. It just hasn't. It's with COVID and everything else, the production capacity hasn't ramped up fast enough.
It's a great point, Russ, because Gregg and I were kicking this around. Gregg, Matt, and I were kicking this around a little bit, and that stuck out to me. The only up 0.6%, and Gregg made a comment. Yeah, but you got to understand, a lot of that missing production was COVID related. Is that Gregg? Is that?
I mean, you know, certainly last year the inability with the, you know, you would have thought the pricing would have you know, ramped up the production. I mean, that was the only logical answer that I had. Russ, what does it mean when it says DEPO? What's those last ones down the bottom? Depth necking. What is? I can't see that. You know what I mean? Where it says like inner 4, can 4 Weyerhaeuser for the type.
Oh, it's capex. It's capex. I mean, it's just mill expansion, greenfield, debottlenecking. So yeah, it should be capex, just meaning it's capital expenditures to increase existing mills. That's all, not greenfield.
Oh no, but I'm saying is, what does it mean when it says DEB debot.
Debottlenecking.
Debottling.
Debottlenecking. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like,
okay.
what? I thought that was like some new word.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you have it. New word.
Debottling.
Yeah. Anyways, that's the term that was used by somebody. So it's just increasing capacity at existing mills.
Okay. So that's just an increase. That's just an organic increase in the capacity. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But but last year the U.S. South only increased incremental production again by about over 300 million board feet. That's about how much lumber came in from Europe last year incrementally. And
Right.
like I say, European volume this year is going to drop, I think, by 25%. So minus 400 million board feet. And the U.S. South, by my calculations, if we're going to get to increase demand by only half of last year to about 700 million board feet, the U.S. South would have to ramp up by about a billion board feet incrementally compared to 300 million last year. So that's a big increase required if you're going to match supply and demand.
Matt,
So
we're going to need to, based on Russ's comments, Matt, we need to get our buy orders in on the board right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean that, and we want to short like all the 2023 contracts because by then all the mills will have been built and running, and we'll be back to 250 mil.
Yeah, and the war
Russ, I know you focus a lot on production and whatnot. You know, talk to me a little bit about what you think could happen from the demand side in the U.S. I mean, people keep telling me that it's going to stay good. It's going to get, and it could get better. And there's no slowdown at all. What do you see?
Yeah, well, I think on the housing starts, what I see is probably a much lower rate of housing starts this year. Last year it was about 15% or 17% increase, I think.
Year over year. Mm-hmm.
Year over year. And I think this year it's going to be 3 to 5%. They just can't build houses fast enough. You guys have been talking about that. The starts are one thing, but trying to complete is taking so much longer. Right. So I think you're going to see a slower uptick in housing starts. Repair and remodeling, well, with high prices, we saw what happened last year. Everyone balked at the prices in the second quarter. So will that happen again? Maybe. But I think repair and remodeling is still going to grow, but probably it's going to be a bit of a challenge to maintain, a steady increase. So I think my overall increase is I see lumber increasing, consumption increasing about 700 million board feet. So about half of what it did last year. Still good, but around tight supply, I don't know where the supply is coming from, in a logical, easy way. I think with all the supply constraints and logistics issues, it seems like it's going to be more of the same, again, until we get to the second half of the year. And then, maybe it'll ease off and prices will correct and all that sort of stuff, but it's hard to say.
One of the COVID side effects on our industry on production was, for example, we bought the Fort St. James mill and we tore the thing down and we're rebuilding it. It's taken twice as long for us to rebuild it. Right? We wanted to open that thing up last year. We're not going to open it until this year. So it just took a lot longer to get the equipment and the man hours. A lot of that equipment comes from Europe. The specialized auto graders and planers and all the machinery that goes into sawmills is worldwide technology. And these companies have, stopped travel or they put some real restrictions on travel because of COVID. So, everything that we take for granted in our business about running sawmills and then moving the lumber from one place to another, it's all delayed. All of it. The whole system is delayed. There's your unknown.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. Just real quick, let's bring up a slide 14 that talks a little bit about in a picture of what you show, Matt, or what you show, Russ, as far as North American supply and demand.
Right, and there it's just that graph is just showing there's sort of a, the requirement for more imports and less exports. And I have another slide and I couldn't find it. I've actually got the Canadian consumption in there that pushes the line even tighter. But the gap, between the top of the red line and the top of the bars is kind of what's available, net imports, net exports. But with the supply crunch in North America, and this goes back to my whole super cycle thesis from 2010, that we don't have enough lumber production in North America, and we have to import more and export less. And this is sort of the squeeze play that continues to go on going forward. And with that, and now with the Russians impacting European exports from say Scandinavia and Central Europe, it's going to be another squeeze play coming up this year. So
yeah, I guess the wild card on the European, and when I think about it, is how much demand destruction are they going to have, because as their economies move into recession, how much will that slow their demand, right? I mean, I guess that's the real wild card, and even for us is, I mean, I know oil's down pretty sharply today, but I mean, gas is at an all-time record high. How much is that gonna, could that put us in recession by the sometime late in the second quarter or third quarter of this year?
Yeah, those are all good points, and that's why I think it's the next it's sort of second quarter that this is all going to get played out at, and then I think we're going to get the natural results of all this coming out, where I think demand will start to ease. Could be ease, but supply is going to be easing too. So if the U.S. market stays strong, and China also has got its problems because there's no more Russian logs available to China anyways. There was a log export ban that started in January. One of the questions is the Russian government going to rescind the log export ban to allow more volumes to be harvested and exported to China? So that's another wild card that could change everything too, right? But right now, China's going to be tight on logs, and high priced lumber is not available to them, or no one's going to ship high priced lumber to China because the prices are lower. That's the Russian supply. How much Russian supply will actually get into China over the short term? So it's everything's moving around, and there's no easy answers.
Well, gentlemen, that gets us up against our half an hour. That's a lot to chew on. So I think, kind of to sum it up, Russ, you think some of this may play out in the second quarter, right? And honestly, like I guess Gregg said, there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm guessing with some of the COVID requirements being over, there are going to be some mills potentially running a little bit more in the South, and maybe that will pick up that big 0.6 billion board feet a year that it came. Maybe that'll kick that outlier up a little bit and improve a little bit of production there. Gregg, are you guys seeing anything as far as imports slowing from Europe yet at the vessels that you guys get coming in at all?
No, I mean, with the, that scheduling, as I've said, is the wood that's going to be coming in, and this week and 3 weeks from now, and it's probably through mid-late April, is pretty much already in the pipeline and positioned. I think the first time that you'd see any significant change in inflows is probably going to be into May would be the soonest we'd see if things change.
Somebody just asked a question about birch forming plywood issued to the U.S. I don't know anything about that. I'm guessing that's
you must be talking about Russian birch.
There must be Russian. I do know there is a seller on our platform, and he's actually on here, that sells a lot of the no grade stamp out of Brazil, and it seems that some of that has picked up since some of that birch business has been basically stopped coming from Russia. Does that make sense? Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of school on that, but do you know anything about that, Russ?
I just know the best quality birch plywood's out of Russia, and of course that's going to get blocked. So there is some finished plywood, but that's smaller scale volumes, a little bit out of northern China as well, probably using Russian logs. But the Russian volumes will be certainly constrained if they're being blocked.
Sure. Well, Russ, so how do people get a hold of you to learn more about your service so we can promote you a little bit here? I know you've got a great following, and I've been to some of your events up in Canada, and heck, you even had traveling events around Europe and China. You do a great job. Where can they get a hold of you and find out more about you?
Website there. It's russtaylorglobal.com. That's where you can find me, and I have a bunch of articles on there that talk about some of these topics as well. So happy to answer anyone's questions too offline.
Russ Taylor is a legendary figure in our business. In case you guys don't know who Russ Taylor is, the man has a wealth of knowledge, and we're lucky to have him on the show.
Absolutely. It's been Russ. It's been great to see you, and thanks so much for coming on and being with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
We appreciate that.
One of my dreams has been on your show, so now that's been finished.
Okay, checked another box off. There you go. Bucket list. You know what? That's on everybody's bucket list now, right?
Exactly.
How do I get on This Week with Lumber?
All right, guys. You have a great week. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
See you, boys.
Cheers.